CFL. Let them know.
Welcome to Saturdays in Canada with Black Hawk West here on the Sports Betting Channel. Now, Black Hawk West, it is week 3. We're still kind of tweaking the format, but we won't be tweaking it too much, and you know why that is.
3-1, 2 weeks in a row.
Yes. When you hit 75% of your bets, and of course, as you know, you really do keep track of the numbers. You're not. I don't know if I'd call you teaching in your Discord group. You're more capping than anything, but there's a lot of teaching going on whenever you and I talk. And the bottom line is those numbers are important to you. For me, it's always been, how much money do I have? How much money do I have, And did I do anything stupid? And this week, I didn't do anything stupid. Last week, I didn't hedge against the team that had lost 16 of 18 at home. This week, I got to my last game of a 5-teamer, and I hedged just what I had invested. But basically, between the USFL and SIC, Saturdays in Canada, I was 5 for 5 with my best bets. But not only money line, they hit for the 25-1 shot, too. It was a great weekend. And then the Lord blessed me a little bit more because
Jesus, I thank you, Jesus.
I put it in the Bitcoin account, and then I started shipping footballs. And guess what? I made another $15. So, no, I mean, anytime you can basically – I bankrolled my entire season now. Now I have the bankroll to be able to make opportunities, because here's what we know with our data is we know opportunities. And that's one of the things I wanted to do is as we go through these clips for each game this week, let's talk about these two teams going forward with basically did we learn anything or what we're reminded of? Because really, how many times have we kicked ourselves after putting a bet in? Maybe it was a week at Circa where we go into 2-3, and you look at one the one that would have made you 3-2 and 2-3 in a contest. This is a pretty big pick. You know what I mean? That really changes things dramatically. And you look back in hindsight, you say, "What the hell? What I was thinking?" I mean, John, right? Last year, how many times was it? Kurt? Was it who was it? Was it the Raiders or no? Was it the Raiders? He's in Vegas. Who was it?
He had a little Homer syndrome sometimes with the Raiders.
Maybe that's what it was. But he was just, and. Remember, what's it? Fool me once, right? Fool me twice, Shame on me, shame on you kind of thing. Well, he was on 3 or 4, I think, and then they became dead to him. And then dead to him, I have dead to me. You have dead to me. We know there's teams we don't touch. But the bottom line, hey, you got conferences you don't touch. You have days of the week you don't touch. In that respect, you're as disciplined as you could have. But when you do go to put them on the dead to me list, then if there was an opportunity with them, you've lost that because they're dead to you.
But the no touch and the dead to me principles, they only help you as a capper. CFL, we're looking at 4 games. So if you know you're not going to touch this scenario and that scenario, okay, well, now your options are limited. But like when you're looking at college football and there's 50 different games, the easiest thing to do is just go through and whack 10 of them out of what you're even going to consider. And now you got your 10 to break down or your 8 to break down. And then you look for red flags. And then maybe you go to like layer 3 of red flags. And then you could actually get to what you really like and where you're going to lay your points.
And we talked about that earlier with the whole head-to-head stuff. Okay, Oklahoma State and Oklahoma are playing. You go head-to-head, you get once a year, goes back and forth, home and away. In the CFL, you might get 3 weeks in a row because you had a bye in between where you're playing the same team. It's the craziest stuff. And when you highlight the head-to-head, you notice it because the highlights are together. So we're going to do this. We're going to start with game 1 last week, which was that was Thursday night, and Calgary 26, Ottawa 15, right?
To 20, and sometimes, flirting with 30. So we can count on them to put up more points this week. I don't think we can count on Ottawa to put up more or much more than they just put up. So I think Calgary being treated the way they were by Vernon Adams Jr. in the first half, they will come out. They'll come out correct. They're going to want to get a lead. And I don't think that they give it up. I'm going to lay the points here and take Calgary.
So you said, if I quote, with Calgary, we're going to get at least 20, and maybe we'll get 30, and then they nail 26. That's pretty darn good. You know what I'm saying? But what did we learn about Calgary? Or what are we reminded of?
I think what we saw glimpses of with Calgary is their defense is very reliable, reliable to potential to be good, and they have a very good wide receiving core. And we saw it. And Mayer is the right quarterback. I don't think he's the best in the league. I don't think he's going to be. But I think when we look at the landscape of the CFL, there's teams that flat out don't know what they're doing at quarterback. I mean, as we go through the games this week, we'll call them out. But I think Calgary is one of the teams that they have their quarterback, and they have a very good wide receiving core. Kadeem Carey is injured. That he's on the 6-week injury list. When he comes back, the whole future is ahead of them. So I think Calgary is the same Calgary. They're going to be that second place menace right behind Winnipeg.
And then Ottawa.
So Ottawa, I don't know that we learned anything other than their defense is scrappy, not scrappy enough to stop Calgary. I think we validated what we already knew was they can't score points, and they don't have the quarterback position figured out.
Well, yeah, you know what the notes are easy to say, no QB, no score, no points. I mean, it don't take a rocket science, especially in this league. That field is so big. It was so much fun, though, this weekend, winning and having the games on with the family. Because you know what his Father's Day, I don't give a crap if you don't want to watch CFL football. All right, I'm live on a 5-teamer. Go watch your movies upstairs, guys. I don't really care, you know. Yeah. All right, then Winnipeg, Saskatchewan.
Of awards winners that were top in the league for something, and there were 4 of them in that Winnipeg locker room. Best coach, most outstanding player, defensive or offensive rookie of the year. Winnipeg is going to cover this spread, especially coming off of a second-half performance like they just had. So I'm going to lay the 6.
You know, that was a game that I don't think they were covering in the second half. In the first, I mean, at the end of one, were they? I don't remember. I think the first 2 games actually of this weekend were not covering at halftime. And they came all the way back, which is all you want if you're the second half guy. All you want is them to come all the way back, not only cover for the second half, but cover for the game, because now, you know, that's 2-1, and usually the second half one is you could tell. We could tell. So those units aren't always equal. I don't always put equal on the second half if I know this is a team who's obviously the better team and I got beat by a hook or whatever, you know.
Winnipeg had 17 on the board at the end of the first half. I remember that one because that was the one where I said cash
13.5, right.
I said cash it in our text. That was a play that I sent to you guys.
Well, no, I saw it. After the fact, I saw the 13.5 you had, yep.
That was a live play for the members, so they got to cash that one.
All right, so let's do this then. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll finish the last 2 games. You know what? I don't know. We go 2 games a segment, 2 games a segment, 2 games a segment, 2 games a segment. The first half of the show, you really should send us money. You're going to learn so much. And the second half of the show is going to be a lot of our opinions. But guess what? If you've listened to those the first 2 weeks, you did okay. It's Saturdays in Canada. He's Blackhawk West. It's the Sports Betting Channel. You're getting a 100% money-back guarantee on every single souvenir football from ChampionshipFootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. How hard is it to find the right gift for someone that already has everything? Whether that special present is for a Georgia Bulldogs fan or a member of the Kansas City Chiefs kingdom. Maybe your grandfather has been a Dallas Cowboy fan as long as you've been alive. Does your brother-in-law live in Penn State territory? Do you know a member of the University of Baylor Alumni Association? Is there a better birthday gift for someone who's 100% all Tulane Green Wave? Send them the coolest present. They'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, if your favorite pro team is the Jacksonville Jaguars or those Minnesota Vikings, we're sorry about that. If you are a Louisiana Monroe Warhawk or an East Carolina Pirate alumni, not much they can do. After all, the name isn't You Had a Pretty Good Season Footballs.com. The name is ChampionshipFootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Welcome back to Saturdays in Canada, it's with Blackhawk West. It's sponsored by Championship Footballs. They are the coolest present. They'll open that day, and they are guaranteed. They're 100% guaranteed. If you don't like it, send it back. You'll get 100% of your money back, even the shipping. I even give you the shipping back. All right, so we are on Game 3. Let's look what we got here for Game 3.
I think you got to lay the points here. I think it's extreme, but I think that BC just beat Calgary by double digits. And so you got an Edmonton defense who played okay, but not that great, going up against the best quarterback performance of the week, I think for sure, percentage-wise, there's no question. Zach Collaros played well, but the performance we saw at a VA is the best of the week.
Yeah, he's right up there. I mean, his stats are right up there, top of the league. And of course, that was a weird game because when you're given a touchdown, you would really like in a league where if you snooze, you go for a second somewhere, you miss just a bit of a game, points are scored one at a time. You want more points, and they were slow. They were slow getting rocking and rolling, but then there was a point, and I think I texted you, just take over this game, and they did. I forget what they did. They were probably up, 13, 14, whatever, and they just took the ball away and scored again, and that was it. It was over. So, all right. So we had Edmonton. We'll talk about the Elks because they were not on the road. They were not at home where they have that incredible loss record. They were on the road. What do we learn about them?
Well, now they have a quarterback controversy, and it's not really a controversy. They just don't have a quarterback. And I said I was going to call these teams out. They're not getting productivity from the quarterback position. They're attempting to bring a second one in. But what I had said last week, I stand behind it, and you can see it. I just talked about the body language out of Sask and how they look really positive, even though they're not winning. Edmonton's body language, they're gone. They're gone. This is not a team that has any type of body language where they're motivated. I don't see resilience, and they can't put points on the board. They had an encouraging performance in week 1, and in week 2, they were elking.
Well, what's funny about that is when we do the data throughout the season, one of the things we'll have are the quarterback rankings. And that's what will happen. Right about the 6th and 7th, you'll see two guys back-to-back from the same team because they're taking each other's reps. And this is sorted by total yards, so their yards are half. And it becomes a whole, if you got two quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks,
Yeah.
All right, this was Toronto 32, Hamilton 14.
Look at this game. I'm a creature of my rules, and with the prime time in the NFL, the NFC East, in general, I do not like to bet on teams on the opening game coming off of a championship. And then when you add to this picture, Hamilton had a really bad first half and then made a run at a comeback, and they did hang some points on Winnipeg. So in this game, I am going to take Hamilton, and I'm going to take the points.
All right. So what happened there was Toronto just better than we thought they were going to be, or were you 100%? Because it works in the NFL. I know for a fact. I want to say it's the first 4 games that if your record betting against the Super Bowl winning team against the spread, the first 4 games, you do really, really well.
What that clip didn't show, we never thought that Toronto wasn't a great team. I liked Hamilton better in that spot. So what we learned about both of these teams last week, we'll start with Hamilton. Bo Levi Mitchell is two interceptions a game, for the first 2 weeks. Now he's injured, and so we don't know anything about Hamilton. We know that they don't really have a great wide receiving core, and their defense, we don't really have enough of a sample size to really decide. Because
they were one, Wes. They are one of those teams that has 2 quarterbacks on the list.
They do, but I don't think it's going to last that long. I think I keep wanting to call them Schlitz, like the beer, but
yeah.
it's Schlitz. And I think that they're going to get a spark from him this week. Now, Toronto, it just balance. Man, is that a balanced team? They were the number one intercepting team in the CFL last year. They got 2 picks in this game and could have had 3. But they got a strong O-line. They have a 1 and 2 wide receiver. Chad Kelly, he is not going to rush for 3 touchdowns like he did in this game, but their wide receiving core, just top to bottom, they are balanced. If there is to be a changing of the guard from Winnipeg to somebody else, this Toronto team is best positioned to take that torch.
Well, that's going to be a great segue for the prop swap commercial that's coming up, because you nailed them on a future last year. So, All right, so let's do this here. When we get to the games, we're going to come back. We're going to start getting the games. When we get to the Montreal game, we'll fill them in because they had a bye last week, so they're not on the list. But before we talk about it, we want to get a feel for what we think we're going to see. Then we'll look at some data. Let's see what we got coming up. You have the prop swap commercials coming up, the Georgia Bulldogs, Kansas City Chiefs championship footballs. You're listening to Saturdays in Canada with Black Hawk West here on the Sports Betting Channel. Your Kansas City Chiefs are Super Bowl champions. Here's the coolest present any Chiefs fan will open that day guaranteed. These full-size, NFL licensed, full-color souvenir footballs celebrate all 3 of Kansas City's Super Bowl titles. The top panel of these limited edition footballs has logos and scores from the first 2 championships with all the game information from the Super Bowl 57 win. The second side has the score from every regular season and playoff game. These footballs make an incredible gift for your favorite Kansas City Chiefs fan, even if it's you. ChampionshipFootballs.com, the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. With thousands of buyers across the country, you'll always get the most amount of money for your bet on PropSwap. So hurry to PropSwap while it's early and grab a ticket or 2. The odds are always the highest right now. It really does pay to get in early. Go to PropSwap.com or download the free PropSwap app today. PropSwap is where America buys and sells sports bets. Your Georgia Bulldogs are back-to-back national champions. Here's the coolest present any Georgia football fan will open that day, guaranteed. These full-size NCAA licensed full-color souvenir footballs celebrate all 4 of Georgia's national championships. The top panel of these limited edition footballs have the 3 previous titles with all the game information from the 2022 championship. The second side has the score from every regular season game, and the Peach Bowl win is part of a perfect season. These footballs make an incredible gift for your favorite Georgia Bulldogs fan, even if it's you. ChampionshipFootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly with Black Hawk West here on the Sports Betting Channel. Wes, I love this clip. I always have.
I always think everything could be a trap, which is why I'm still alive.
I love that. It's a classic movie, but I love that clip. And at what point in the season, when you have teams like we talk about that play each other back to back on June 20th and on June 27th, some years they play the same team, and the only time that's going to happen, like we talked about in the NFL, is the week after the playoffs, and the college, it's only going to happen if you're again in the playoffs. So what do we look for? When will trap games be a real thing here in the CFL?
Well, just as we get smarter and the easy sports data gets smarter, so do the odds makers. So, in these back-to-backs, you got to look at some of that stuff too in line movement. And the line movement in the CFL, it happens quick. It happens real quick. Just an example, the Montreal and
back-to-back weeks, you moved the line yourself, 4.5 points in a game. Back-to-back weeks.
But you can see, a quick move. When I had sent it to you earlier, Montreal was a 1-point dog. Now Montreal is a 2.5-point dog. So not as much money, quicker line movement. Somebody that had enough money to shift that line 1.5 points, jumped on it, and it's still minus 110. So the odds makers are totally comfortable, and that's just our example. So when we get into these head-to-heads, I'm not saying that the guy that makes the lines is smarter than the guy that is betting on the game, but I will add that into how I'm looking at these games. Now, if we have Edmonton playing against Winnipeg back-to-back, we know what the answer there is. I don't really care about a trap game of it. There is no scenario on this galaxy where I'm sober, and I'm going to bet Edmonton against Winnipeg.
No, hard to argue that logic. Because here's what we've got. Thursday night, BC at Winnipeg, 49 minus 6. Again, the line I've got is the line I printed out, the line when we bet. I know, I'm telling you, I'm getting my bets in earlier this week because I saw what happened. The line moved against me if I like the better team and they're favored. So I'm not afraid to kind of hang up from you and start betting.
Yeah, so this one, you're not going to make a living betting against Winnipeg, and so I'm going to lay the 6. They are at home. Another piece that they rounded out for us is that they close out games at home. We saw it last week. They had 17 points on the board at the half, and they ended up hanging a 40-burger. So
you want to hear, you mentioned 17, right? You mentioned 17. It's got to be, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 games at home. Their last 12 games overall. The playoff regular season, they've scored 17 or more in 8 of those, or 10 of those 12 first halves. So that's fairly consistent, would you say?
Yeah, and I'm looking to that line, and it's probably going to move on that first half. And no, the odds have changed, but the actual line has not. We're looking at another 13.5 first half over. Yeah. So, if you want to make some first half money and get into the game twice.
And what are the odds on that?
Minus 125. So
yeah, that's not a bad bet for something that hits 8 out of 10 times, right?
No, it's not a bad bet, especially for a team hanging that many points. You get the best quarterback in the league. They have 3. We saw the 4th wide receiver. We nailed a plus 200 prop bet on a wide receiver because I thought that they were going to have a little bit of trouble from the Sask secondary. Sask has pretty good DBs, but we nailed a plus 200 on Wolodarski to score a touchdown. So, that's their 4th option at wide receiver. And, Winnipeg is just deep. So when you look at...
Yeah, and they're head-to-head here in Winnipeg. The last 3 times they played, they've given up a total of 29 points in 3 games. So that's easy math. See, you don't need to do math when it's easy. 29 divided by 3 is pretty easy. It's close to 10. You don't win a lot of football games scoring 10 points.
And BC just hung 22-0 on Edmonton. But that might be a really bad confidence booster as you're getting ready to go to win.
All right, let's talk about Montreal because they're at Hamilton. Again, you said the line moves. I've got 44 minus 1.5 for the Tiger Cats. Before we look at this game, what did we learn after week 1 with Montreal?
So Montreal had 4 field goals and a touchdown, and Cody looked great. I thought he looked good. This was not the bad version of him. I think he found his wide receiver, very nice young man from the Ohio State. Montreal, I expected more points out of them. But again, as we said earlier, that Ottawa defense is scrappy. So they fell right into it. This game coming up, I look for more of the same, but I'm looking for more points out of them. And Hamilton just is really struggling to score points. They might get a boost from this new quarterback that be starting, and so this might be a higher scoring game with both these two teams. I think we're going to see in the 20s. We might even see 30 out of Montreal, but I like Montreal money line. I'm going to take the points because it's the right thing to do. There's not enough value to go to the money line, but I typically will go a quarter unit on money line and then find a live action play for 3/4 of a unit that'll balance the whole thing out. But I'm going to touch some money line, and I'm going to take it's 1 or 2.5 depending on where you got it. But Hamilton's not investable to me.
Yeah, and that's so important. That's so important because it really is your money. If you just want to throw it at something because you want to bet on the CFL, just the next time you're on the road, go and just crack the windows a little. And your car hit the button a little, it'll crack and it'll suck right out. Just put the money up, suck it right out. Bottom line is that's not what I want to do. I'm looking at opportunities. All right, so let's see. What do we got coming? Oh, of course, right about this segment is when it is 8:20 here in San Diego in the morning, which makes it 4:20 in London, which is cool because the Canadian people get paid in money that has the Queen's face on it, and that 4:20 thing is pretty cool. I have a nephew that's actually in London, but he's studied in Oxford. I'm pretty sure he's not getting stoned that often. I don't think you retain as much at Oxford when you're stoned. So when we come back from break here, you're going to hear from about the contest, our 420 contest. You're going to hear about our Wana brands, and then we're going to come back for the last two games. You're listening to Blackhawk West here on Saturdays in Canada.
Hey, it's Leaf.
Hello, and we're here to tell you about our Wake and Bake Twitter contest. You don't even need to be a great handicapper to win.
This one is so easy, even I can win.
That's right, Leaf. Anybody can win. All you have to do is...
Can I do the disclaimer?
Leaf, the disclaimer is at the end.
Sorry.
All you have to do is take a screenshot of any game that you're watching where the clock has stopped at exactly 4:20.
420. I love that number.
We know you do, Leaf. Now please let me finish.
Sorry.
If the clock stops at 4:20 during any game you're watching, take a screenshot showing the clock and tag Chaz on Twitter with a picture.
Go to @secondhalfchaz, add the picture, and you're in.
You'll be entered in a drawing for a $100 gift certificate at championshipfootballs.com.
In a world where most cannabis gummies are hashy, melty, or just plain gross, one brand will rise up to forever change what an edible can be. Vegan and gluten-free ingredients, 30-plus terpenes, and a melt-proof recipe star in Wana. Not all edibles are created equal. Now in theaters. Dispensaries.
Welcome back to Saturdays in Canada with Blackhawk West here on the Sports Betting Channel. West, we've got Saturday, Sask at Calgary. It's 45.5. It's -3.5.
This is the hardest one of the week as far as I'm concerned to handicap, because Calgary at home is not that impressive. Calgary on the road is very impressive. I like the resilience I'm seeing out of Sask, and I think that they're well coached enough to come off of a game like that, where they come back guns blazing. They're not going to see the same depth at wide receiver or the same quality of quarterback, although not too far off with Calgary. 3.5 is just too much in this game. And my true struggle with this game is I'm looking at all of the road teams that I like. But I have to take the points in this scenario. I like Sask's resilience. They're not looking terrible on defense. Trevor Harris, it actually looks like he's providing some form of leadership on those sidelines, and I think we're going to get a performance out of Wanky. I never pronounced his name correctly, but I think the Stamps will win. But I think it'll be a 1 or a 2 point win.
But it's funny because when you don't have the same division, same conference world, you don't see a lot of teams play. We had some last week that played 4 times last year. Yeah. And that really, when you see, that gives me a lot of confidence. Who was it? It might have been BC. They outscored them last year, 134-57 or something. It's a little easier to have confidence. And then finally we got Toronto coming back at Edmonton. It is 44.5 and 6.5.
Should we let the fans vote on who we like in this game?
Well, these are our 2 losses, right?
They are the 2 losses of the season, and we learned our lesson. I did not like Toronto to not produce. I liked Toronto. I just didn't like Toronto in last week's spot. But they showed some balance. They showed balance, and I think they can beat Edmonton a bunch of different ways. I think that they just intercepted a far better quality quarterback last week than what Edmonton even has on their roster. So I think we're going to see at least 1 to 3, at least 1 interception, probably 2, because that's who Toronto is. And I think laying the points 6.5 on the road, there is no home field advantage. Edmonton, those fans are dying for a winner, and they're so upset they don't have one. It's sad. It's a tradition.
No, here's the thing, really. If you were doing data and the W on your machine broke, on your laptop or on your iPad or on your keyboard, if the W was totally gone, it wouldn't impact one way, shape, or form the Edmonton Elks data because it's nothing but L's. And that's the funny part, because the first 2 weeks I had no confidence in that fourth game. And so that's why I hit the 5-teamer, because I didn't make it a 6-teamer. I'm learning. You don't just bet to bet. You got to have a reason to bet. But I'll be keying a lot of things Toronto. Now, USFL only got a couple games this week, but I've done real well with them, so I'm going to continue to bet them. And I love keying everything to Sunday night. Sunday is so much better when you're live Sunday night to a lot of tickets. And I think on that Saturday night I hit 14, I think, right? It was 14 tickets I cashed on the whatever that third game was. So anything else before we go?
In the spirit of this Edmonton-Toronto game, take a look at some of the props, because I'm starting to get props early. And you're on Bovada, right? I am on Bovada. It's just that my fingers work better on Bovada than any other.
Well, they're ahead of 2 or 3 places that I'm looking at in terms of what they're offering early. That's for sure.
So plus 600 is tremendous value for a Toronto defensive special teams touchdown. There's a tremendous value there. I already said we're going to see a pick. The only question is that pick wind up in the back of the end zone? But don't punt returns count for that? So it's reading defensive touchdown, but usually that involves special teams.
Yeah, I thought so. All right, yeah, that's 6-1. You take that all day long. That'll make up those little, like you had a 2-1. You had plus 200 guy, but it was at the end of the game where the game was kind of out of hand anyway, and all of a sudden that gave you money to cover a mistake or two.
Yeah, we got to climb that Sunday mountain, though. I mean, it is a good week though when you don't lose until the fourth day.
Well, see, the thing is. Plus, the way I bet, I tell people all the time, if you say to me you should never bet parlays, you're an idiot, because you should never say never. The bottom line, parlays are a tool. They're part of, what if I'm 5 for 5 this week? Oh, guess what? I was 30-1. 30-1s make weekends. We talk about horse racing and hitting a 1,500-1. Well, that's a little different. There's just not a lot of 30-1s walking around sportsbook on the sportsbook side of things, are there, Wes?
They make your month. I mean, the parlay cannot be your number one strategy. You'll lose that way. But you're gonna go 4-0. You're gonna go 5-0.
It's reverse insurance for, God forbid, that time that you're right. You know what? It don't take much. And you know what? If you're throwing a $5 chip right on or a $5 bill because that pretty girl is spinning the wheel. You know what? Why would you not throw in a $5 5-teamer? And it's $1.50,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, how many times we've been betting the horses and losing, but the person next to us is betting the cool names and cashing every single race?
No doubt.
That person's capable of going 4-0 every now and then.
You got it. All right, buddy. We'll catch you next time. Always be cashing.
Always be cashing, eh?
Oh, don't forget to check out the commercial for our 420 contest. Here on Saturdays in Canada. It's actually a wake and bake thing, but for right now, we're on Saturdays in Canada with the Black Hawk West. We'll talk to you next time. Hey, it's Chaz from the Sports Betting Channel, and we've got some exciting things happening on our new season of Wake and Bake. It starts with our contest. Now, it's officially the Wake and Bake 4 minutes and 20-second screenshots contest, but we're calling it our 420 contest for short, and it may be the easiest sports betting contest you've ever been in. All you have to do to win is attach a screenshot of any game you're betting on where there's a break in the action with exactly 4 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock. That's it. You don't have to pick a winner. There's no point spread involved. All you have to do is grab the image, attach it to a tweet on Twitter, tag me at Second Half Chaz, and you are in. Every month we'll draw one name, and that winner will get a $100 gift certificate from championshipfootballs.com. How easy is that? Now when there's 420 left on the clock, grab a picture, post it to Twitter, and you could win a $100 gift certificate on the coolest present they will open that day, guaranteed. All courtesy of Wake and Bake, where sports betting meets marijuana.